The night swallowed the ridge whole. No moon, no stars, just the kind of darkness that made men doubt their eyes and trust their ghosts instead. Afghanistan sprawled beneath like a wound that refused to heal, all jagged rock and ancient grudges, and somewhere in that blackness, a woman named Elena Graves lay perfectly still with her finger resting against a trigger she might never pull. The scope showed green. Thermal imaging painted the world in shades of heat and death. 1,800 meters downrange, a compound glowed with body signatures, 12 hostiles, 6 American hostages chained to a support beam in the northwest corner, and one high-value target moving between rooms like he owned the darkness. He did not know Elena was watching. He did not know he had 90 seconds left to live. The radio crackled against her ear. Colonel Marcus Hale's voice cut through static, calm and certain as morning. "Reaper 1, you are cleared hot. HVT confirmed in building. Take the shot." Elena's heartbeat ticked at 42, her breathing measured to match the wind. The rifle settled into her shoulder like an old promise finally kept. Through the scope she watched the target light a cigarette, watched him laugh with the men who would die beside him if she squeezed, watched the way his head tilted back when he exhaled smoke into air that smelled like cordite and fear. Her finger tightened, 0.2 pounds of pressure, 0.4, 0.6. The hostages shifted, 1 woman, 5 men, zip-tied, blindfolded, waiting to be murdered on camera for an audience that would never remember their names. 8.5 pounds of trigger pull. She was at 7.9. The target moved toward the hostages, raised his pistol, theatrical, cruel, the kind of man who made killing into performance art. Elena's crosshairs settled on his temple. Perfect angle, clean entry, instantaneous death. She shifted aim 2 feet left. Fired. The chain holding the hostages exploded. Not the man, the chain. Metal shrapnel tore through the room and bodies scattered like startled birds. The target dove for cover. Hostages ran. Chaos bloomed where certainty had been. Elena worked the bolt, smooth, mechanical, already tracking her second target before the first round finished echoing off the valley walls. Radio antenna. She put a bullet through the satellite dish, cut their communications to nothing but screaming. Third shot, the vehicle tires, both front wheels shredded into rubber confetti. Fourth shot, the generator, lights died. Compound went dark except for muzzle flashes and panic. The radio exploded in her ear. Hale's voice no longer calm. "Reaper 1, what are you doing? You had clearance. Why did you break protocol?" Elena's voice came out flat, empty, the way it always did when she made choices that would cost her everything later, because some things matter more than missions, sir. She was already packing her rifle before he could respond, already calculating the extraction route, already knowing that what she had just done would follow her home like a shadow that never stopped hunting. 18 hours earlier, she had been someone else. 72 hours before that, she had been someone else entirely. 8 years ago, she had been a girl who did not yet know that silence could be a weapon sharper than any bullet. The memory hit her like concussion, sudden, brutal, the kind of flashback that felt less like remembering and more like being dragged backward through broken glass. Montana, winter, 2018. She was 18 and the world was the size of a detention cell with bars that tasted like rust and broken promises. The intake officer read from a file that weighed more than it should. Elena Graves, 18 years old, assault charges, victim hospitalized with fractured skull, broken ribs, collapsed lung, claims self-defense, no witnesses to corroborate. The judge had looked at her like she was a problem that needed solving, a foster kid who had finally snapped, another statistic waiting to happen, 3 years prison or 4 years military service. Your choice, Miss Graves. She had chosen the uniform because prison was just another cage, and at least in the military, they gave you a rifle. Nobody asked why an 18-year-old girl could put a grown man in intensive care using only her hands. Nobody asked where she learned to hit like that, to move like that, to turn off everything human until the violence was finished, and then turn it back on again like flipping a switch. Her father had taught her that. Daniel Graves had been a lot of things: SEAL, scout sniper, drunk, ghost, the kind of man who could field strip a rifle in the dark and couldn't hold his daughter without flinching. He had trained Elena the way other fathers taught their kids to ride bikes, methodically, relentlessly, without mercy or apology. She was 6 when he first put a rifle in her hands, too young, too small. The recoil knocked her flat and he made her stand up and do it again, and again, and again until she learned to absorb the kick the way she learned to absorb everything else he threw at her. Faster, he would say, "You are too slow, slow gets you dead." He never hit her, did not need to. Disappointment was sharper than fists. His silence was louder than screaming. When she missed a target, he would look at her like she had already died and he was just waiting for her corpse to realize it. By 14, she could hit a man-sized target at 800 meters in crosswinds that made grown men pack up and go home. By 16, she could field strip and reassemble a rifle blindfolded in under 2 minutes. By 17, she understood that her father was not teaching her to hunt. He was teaching her to survive what he could not. The night he died, she was at a friend's house 40 miles away. The sheriff called at 2 in the morning. "Your father, I am sorry, it was his service pistol. Nobody saw it coming." Except Elena had seen it coming since she was 12 years old and walked in on him with the barrel in his mouth, and his finger on the trigger and eyes that looked through her like she was already a memory. He had lowered the gun when he saw her. "Not yet," he had said. "Still have to finish teaching you." 2 years later, he finished what he started. The funeral was closed casket, not because the damage was too severe, because there was no body. Forest fire swept through the mountains 3 days after his death, and by the time they controlled it, there was nothing left but ashes and questions nobody wanted to answer. Elena stood by an empty grave and felt nothing. The chaplain talked about sacrifice and service and honor. He did not talk about the empty bottles under the sink. The way her father would wake up screaming in languages that did not belong to Afghanistan. The morning she found him sleeping in the truck because the house felt too much like a coffin. After the funeral, social services put her in a group home. She lasted 6 weeks before the incident. A man twice her size thought a foster kid with no family was easy prey. She put him through a wall and then through a window and then kept going until someone pulled her off. The judge at her arraignment had been kind, kinder than she deserved, but kindness did not change the facts. She was 18, an adult in the eyes of the law, charged as such, facing real time. Military or prison, your choice. She chose the only escape route she understood, the one her father had carved into her bones. Boot camp was easy, easier than living with Daniel Graves had ever been. The drill instructors screamed and threatened and postured, but they never made her field strip a rifle while he held a stopwatch and a bottle and eyes that blamed her for surviving when his team had not. She finished top of her class without speaking more than 30 words the entire cycle. Silent, focused, the kind of recruit who made instructors nervous because they could not tell if she was brilliant or broken. Both probably. The Navy offered her intelligence, logistics, administration, safe jobs for smart kids who tested well. She requested Scout Sniper program. They laughed. Then they looked at her rifle scores. Then they stopped laughing. Bud's training started on a Monday in January 2020 with 47 recruits who thought they were hard enough to earn the trident. Elena was the only woman, not the first, not the last, but the only one in this class, the only one they would watch, test, wait for her to break. She did not break. Week 1 was designed to shatter egos, sleep deprivation, hypothermia, instructors who made failure into an art form, men quit by the dozen, big men, strong men, men who thought muscle was enough. Elena said nothing, did what was required, exceeded nothing, met every standard with mechanical precision, and then returned to her rack and lay awake staring at ceiling tiles that reminded her of the ones above her childhood bed. The instructors noticed. Of course they noticed. Sergeant Derek Vaughn noticed most of all. He was 32, SEAL veteran, 3 deployments, the kind of man who wore his credibility like armor and his skepticism like a weapon. He watched Elena with the focused intensity of someone waiting for the punchline to a joke he did not find funny. Week 2, the range, 300 meters, stress fire qualification after a 5-mile run with full pack. 42 recruits left. 38 missed the target completely. Adrenaline and exhaustion made their hands shake, made them forget everything they learned, made them human. Elena's heart rate never broke 50. She put 10 rounds into a grouping tight enough to cover with a playing card. Then she cleared her rifle, safed it, walked away. Vaughn stopped her. His shadow fell across her like a judgment. "Reeves, how did you do that?" She looked at him with eyes the color of winter storms. "Removed myself from my body, Sergeant. I am not the one shooting. I am just the weapon." His jaw worked. Something behind his eyes that might have been recognition, might have been fear. "That is not how we train soldiers." "Then maybe your soldiers die more." The words came out flat, clinical, the kind of observation a pathologist might make about a corpse. Vaughn walked away without another word, but Elena could feel his attention on her. After that, like a rifle sight she could not shake. Colonel Marcus Hale watched the exchange from the observation tower. 48 years old, face carved from hard choices and harder consequences, silver at his temples, scar tissue where his left ear should have been, 3 tours in Iraq, 2 in Afghanistan, 1 in a place that did not officially exist. He had seen a lot of recruits, cocky ones, scared ones, the ones who were running towards something and the ones running away. Elena Graves was neither. She was not running at all. She was hunting. That night Hale pulled her file, read it 3 times. Each time the details felt worse. Father Daniel Graves, scout sniper, 47 confirmed kills, killed in action 2016. No, not killed in action, suicide, forest fire destroyed evidence. Case closed, file sealed. Except Hale knew Daniel Graves. They had deployed together. Anbar Province, 2006, back when the insurgency was a meat grinder and every street corner was a bullet with someone's name on it. Daniel had been the best shot in the platoon, maybe the best Hale had ever seen, calm under fire, deadly at distance, the kind of sniper who made impossible shots look routine. Until the day he made a shot he should not have taken. Hale closed the file, rubbed his eyes, felt the weight of old ghosts settling on his shoulders like snow that never melted. He had 2 choices: wash Elena out, save her from becoming her father, or let her continue, see if she could survive what Daniel could not. He made his choice. The next morning he assigned Lieutenant Avachen to monitor Elena's psych evals, weekly check-ins, mandatory counseling disguised as professional development. Chen was 29, former Marine, marksmanship instructor with a graduate degree in psychology, the only female instructor in the program. She met Elena in a room that smelled like bleach and old coffee, sat across from her in metal chairs that scraped against linoleum when they moved. "How are you adjusting to training, Sergeant?" "Fine." "Any difficulties with the male recruits?" "No." "Any difficulties at all?" "No." Chen studied her, really looked, saw the way Elena sat, spine straight, hands loose, eyes tracking the exits, the posture of someone who had learned young that relaxation was a luxury you could not afford. "Your father was a sniper." "Yes." "Did he teach you to shoot?" "Yes." "What else did he teach you?" Elena's eyes shifted. Not much. Just looked at Chen with something that was not quite emotion but was closer than anything she had shown before. How to turn off everything that makes you hesitate. Chen wrote something in her notepad, underlined it twice. "And do you want to learn how to turn it back on?" "I do not know if I can." That was the first honest thing Elena had said since arriving. The first crack in the armor, small, hairline, but there. Chen closed her notepad. "We will find out." Week 12. The desert. Mojave training range where the sun was a physical weight and the heat made the horizon shimmer like a lie. 18 recruits remained. Half of what they started with. The men who quit were not weak. They were just not willing to pay the price this program demanded. Elena was willing, had always been willing. That was the problem. The evolution was simple. 72 hours, solo navigation, 40 miles of terrain that wanted to kill you, resupply caches marked on maps that might be wrong, objectives that changed without warning, and at the end, a shooting qualification that would determine whether you stayed or went home. 1,200 meters, moving wind, heat shimmer, no spotter, no second chances. Jackson Cole went first, 32 years old, solid operator, good man. He took his time, calculated his dope, fired 5 rounds, 3 hits, 2 near misses, passing score but not impressive. Vaughn went next, 5 shots, 4 hits, 1 dead center. He walked away from the line with the swagger of someone who just proved a point. Then Elena. She approached the rifle like it was a conversation she had been having her entire life. Lay prone, settled in, did not touch the scope for 30 seconds, just stared downrange at nothing, or everything. Vaughn watched from behind. "What are you waiting for, Reeves? Wind is not getting any better." She did not answer, did not look back, just kept staring. Then her hand moved, adjusted elevation. Windage, parallax, smooth, economical, like her fingers knew the path without her brain needing to guide them. First shot. The sound cracked across the valley and came back as echoes that sounded like applause. Downrange the steel sang. Dead center. Second shot, same. Third, fourth, fifth. 5 rounds, 5 perfect impacts. Grouping you could cover with a quarter at 1,200 meters. Vaughn stared. Hale lowered his binoculars. Even Chen, watching from the command tent, felt something cold slide down her spine. Elena stood, cleared her rifle, walked away without checking her score. She already knew. That night Hale called her to his office. She stood at attention in front of his desk, while he pretended to read reports he had already memorized. "You do not celebrate," he said without looking up. "No, sir." "You do not smile, do not talk unless spoken to, do not form bonds with your team." "No, sir." "Do you know why you are here, Reeves?" "To become a sniper, sir." Hale looked up, finally met her eyes. "No. You are here because a judge gave you a choice between this and prison. You are here because you have nowhere else to go. You are here because you are running from something and you think if you run fast enough you will leave it behind." He stood, walked around the desk, stopped close enough that she had to look up to hold his gaze. "I knew your father." The words hung in the air like smoke. Elena's face did not change, but something behind her eyes shifted. Tectonic, irreversible. "Did you?" It was not a question. Hale nodded. Anbar Province, 2006. He was the best shot I ever saw until today. Elena said nothing. He also had the same look you do, like he was trying to turn himself into a machine, like if he just followed the manual hard enough he would stop feeling things. "Did it work?" she asked. Hale's jaw tightened, for a while. Then one day he took a shot he should not have taken, followed orders, did his job, killed the target and 12 civilians including 6 children. He watched Elena's face for reaction, found none. 3 months later he walked into an ambush, saved 6 men doing it, got himself killed. The army called it heroic. I called it suicide by combat. "Why are you telling me this?" Elena said. "Because you shoot like him, move like him, think like him. And if I let you continue down this path you will end up like him, dead or wishing you were." Elena met his stare without blinking. "Then wash me out, sir." Hale shook his head. "I am not going to wash you out. I am going to do something harder. I am going to teach you to be human again, and you are going to hate me for it." "I already do, sir." For the first time in 12 weeks, Hale smiled. It was not a kind smile. "Good. That means you still feel something." He gave her new orders the next morning. 6 weeks of training that had nothing to do with shooting. Mandatory group integration. She had to eat meals with the team, participate in conversations, engage. Week 1 was torture. Elena sat at tables with men who talked about sports and women and home. She said nothing, contributed nothing, just chewed food and counted minutes until she could leave. Cole tried, he was good at that, making people feel included. "Hey Reeves, you follow football. Got $20, says the Raiders make playoffs." "No. No, you do not follow, or no, they will not make it." "Just no." "Okay then." Silence. Vaughn was less patient. "You know the whole strong silent type thing gets old. We get it. You are tough. You can shoot. But if you cannot communicate, you are a liability." Elena looked at him. "I communicate fine. I just have nothing to say to you." Vaughn's face darkened. Cole put a hand on his arm. "Easy. She is learning." "Learning what?" Vaughn said. "How to be an even bigger pain in the ass." Elena stood, cleared her tray, walked away. Week 2, the dog. Hale assigned her to K-9 unit for familiarization training. She reported to the kennel expecting another pointless exercise in forced socialization. Instead she met Duke. The Belgian Malinois was 7 years old, combat vet, bomb detection, 3 deployments, blown off his feet by an IED in Helmand Province 18 months prior, survived, barely, retired with honors and PTSD that made him shake so hard his teeth chattered. The handler was apologetic. "He does not eat much, does not train. Honestly, we are probably going to put him down next week. Just cannot justify the resources for a dog who cannot work." Elena looked at Duke. The dog looked back. Both of them had eyes that had seen too much, both of them vibrating with tension that had nowhere to go. "Give me a week," she said. The handler shrugged. "Your time to waste." Elena took Duke to her barracks, against regulations. She did not care, set up a blanket in the corner, sat beside it. Duke stayed across the room, shaking, watching her like she might be the next thing to explode. She did not try to pet him, did not talk to him, just sat, breathed, let him see that she was not a threat. 4 hours later Duke moved closer, Not much, a foot, maybe two. Elena did not react. By midnight Duke was sitting beside her, still shaking but closer. By morning, he had his head on her leg. She spent every free moment that week with Duke, still did not talk much, just existed in the same space, matched his breathing when he panicked, slow, steady, 4 counts in, 6 counts out, the rhythm her father had drilled into her for shooting. It worked for calming dogs too. Day 5, Duke ate from her hand. Day 6, he followed her to the range, sat beside her while she shot, did not flinch at the rifle cracks. Day 7, the handler came to collect him for euthanasia, found Elena and Duke running together. The dog's tail was up, his eyes were bright, the shake was gone. The handler stared. What did you do? Nothing, just let him know he was not alone. The handler wiped his eyes, tried to hide it, failed. You want to keep him? Can I? Regulations say no, but I am going to lose the paperwork for a week or two, see what happens. Duke stayed, became Elena's shadow, the only living thing she let get close. Chen noted it in her report. Subject shows capacity for attachment, limited but present. Recommend continued exposure to scenarios requiring emotional engagement. Week 3, the hospital. Veterans Affairs Medical Center, San Diego. Elena volunteered 3 days a week, not because she wanted to, because Hale ordered her to. Exposure therapy disguised as community service. She was assigned to the amputee ward. Young men, old men, men who left pieces of themselves in deserts and jungles and mountains that did not care about their sacrifice. Most volunteers were cheerful, brought magazines, playing cards, conversation. Elena brought none of those things. She just showed up, sat, listened when they talked, said nothing when they did not. The nurses loved her for it, patients too, because sometimes silence was better than hollow encouragement. She met Corporal David Park on her second week, 24 years old, Marine, lost both legs below the knee to an IED outside Kandahar, came home to a country that thanked him for his service and then forgot he existed. He was bitter, angry, the kind of angry that came from watching your future evaporate in a cloud of dirt and shrapnel and realizing you survived when you should not have. Why are you here? He asked her. Orders. He laughed sharp, brittle. At least you are honest. Everyone else pretends they care. I do not know you well enough to care yet. Then why are you sitting here? Because someone told me to. Park studied her. Most people would lie, pretend. You do not do that, do you? No. He leaned back, closed his eyes. Good. I am tired of liars. They sat in silence for 20 minutes. Elena did not try to fill it. Park did not seem to want her to. Finally he spoke. You ever kill anyone? Not yet, will soon. How do you live with knowing you will? I do not know yet. Park opened his eyes. When you find out, come tell me, because I cannot live with what I have already done. What did you do? Elena asked. Park's jaw worked. My squad got ambushed. I called in the airstrike. Coordinates were good. Intel was good. We lit them up. Afterwards we swept the compound. Found 14 dead insurgents and 8 dead kids. Elena said nothing. Park continued. Intel said it was a weapons cache. They were right, plenty of weapons, but it was also a school. The kids were there for lessons. We killed them for learning math. That was not your fault, Elena said. Park laughed again. Worse this time. Everyone says that. My co said that. The chaplain said that. My therapist says that. But I am the one who called it in. I am the one who gave the coordinates. Those kids died because I did my job. Elena sat with that. Let the weight of it settle. Then she spoke. My father killed children too, following orders, doing his job. 3 months later he killed himself. Not with a gun. He just stopped trying to survive, walked into an ambush, went down fighting. Everyone called him a hero. Park looked at her. You think he was? I think he was a man who could not live with what he did. And I think the only difference between him and you is you are still here trying to figure out how. Park closed his eyes again. I do not know how much longer I can do this. Elena stood, started to leave, stopped, turned back. Neither do I, but I will be here Thursday if you want to try again. She came back Thursday. Duke came with her. Park was still there, still breathing, still trying. They sat together, week after week, neither of them talking much, both of them carrying weight that had no name. Week 6, Elena arrived to find Park's bed empty, sheets stripped, mattress bare. The nurse would not meet her eyes. I am sorry, he passed last night. Elena's voice was flat. How? Overdose pills he had been saving, left a note. Can I see it? The nurse hesitated, then pulled an envelope from her pocket. He asked me to give this to you if you came back. Elena took it, did not open it there, walked outside, sat on a bench. Duke pressed against her leg. She opened the envelope. The note was short, neat handwriting, the kind of penmanship they teach in grade school before the world teaches you nothing matters. It read, you have something I lost, purpose. Do not waste it killing, waste it saving. Elena folded the note, put it in her pocket, felt something crack inside her chest. Not breaking, just the first hairline fracture in armor she had worn so long she forgot it was there. She sat on that bench for 3 hours, Duke beside her, tears on her face she did not try to hide. It was the first time she cried since her father died. Chen found her there, did not ask questions, just sat beside her until the sun went down and the parking lot lights flickered on. Finally, Elena spoke. I do not know how to do this. Do what? Feel things, care, all of it. Before it was easier, nothing hurt. Chen nodded. I know, but nothing mattering is not the same as being strong. It is just being dead while your heart still beats. How do I live with all of this? Chen looked at the hospital, at the windows where men lay awake staring at ceilings they would trade their remaining limbs to escape, one day at a time, one choice at a time, and you remember that feeling this much means you are still human. What if I do not want to be? Too late, you already are. The next morning Hale called Elena to his office again. She stood at attention, eyes forward, face neutral, but something had changed. He could see it, the way she held herself. Less weapon, more woman. How was the hospital, he asked. Educational, she said. And the dog? Therapeutic. Hale leaned back in his chair. Tomorrow you graduate, top of the class, youngest sniper in program history. You have earned the trident. You have earned your place. But I need to know something before you pin that insignia on your uniform. Elena waited. Are you a soldier who can kill, Hale asked, or a weapon that can feel? I do not know yet, sir. Hale nodded. Good, because if you knew the answer you would be lying, and I need you honest for what comes next. What comes next? Deployment, real missions, real targets, real consequences you deploy in 72 hours. Afghanistan, Kunar province, welcome to the war. For the first time since arriving, Elena felt something she had not allowed herself to feel in 8 years. Fear. Not of dying, she had never been afraid of that. Fear of becoming her father, of taking the shot that turned her into a ghost haunting her own life, of surviving the war and losing the fight to stay human. Hale saw it, recognized it, because he lived with the same fear every day since Fallujah. "You are going to be afraid," he said. "Every mission, every shot, every choice, and that is good. Fear means you still have something to lose. Your father lost that. Do not lose it too." "How do I not?" Elena asked. Hale stood, walked to the window, looked out at the range where recruits were shooting at targets that would never shoot back. "You remember that every bullet has a cost, and you decide what you are willing to pay." Elena stood there for a long moment. Then she saluted, turned, walked toward the door. Hale called after her, "Reeves." She stopped. "Your father would be proud of you." Elena did not turn around. "With respect, sir, my father does not get to be proud. He is dead because he could not handle what this job made him do. I will not make his mistake." She walked out. Hale stood alone in his office, looked at the photo on his desk. Himself and Daniel Graves, Fallujah, 2006. Young men who thought they were invincible before the war taught them otherwise. He had failed Daniel, let him spiral, let him break, let him die thinking he was damned. He would not fail Elena. Could not. Because if she broke the way her father did, it would mean this whole system was designed to destroy the best of them. And Hale was not ready to accept that truth. Not yet. 72 hours later, Elena Graves boarded a C-130 transport bound for Bagram Airfield. Duke beside her, rifle across her lap, eyes staring at nothing. Colonel Hale watched the plane take off, felt the weight of command settle heavier than usual. Lieutenant Chen stood beside him. "Think she will make it?" Hale did not answer right away, just watched the plane become a dot, then a memory, then nothing. Finally he spoke. "I do not know, but I am going to make damn sure she has the chance to try." The plane disappeared into clouds heavy with rain that might have been snow by the time it reached the mountains. And somewhere in that steel belly Elena sat with her eyes closed, and her hands steady, and her heart beating 42 times per minute. Still a weapon. But learning. Slowly. Painfully. Learning to be something her father never managed to become. Human enough to survive the killing. That was the hope anyway. Hope was a luxury in this life. But sometimes luxuries were all you had left when everything else burned down. The deployment would test everything Hale had tried to teach her, everything she had tried to learn. 6 months in country, maybe more. Enough time to discover whether the human she was becoming could survive the weapon she still was. The war was waiting. And Elena Graves was flying straight into it. The first 6 months in Afghanistan passed in a blur of missions and heat, and the slow realization that war was nothing like training. Elena Graves learned the difference between shooting steel targets and hunting men who shot back. Learned that dust got into everything. That sleep was a luxury you stole between patrols. That the mountains watched with ancient indifference, and the valleys kept secrets older than any war America brought to them. She learned that killing was easier than she expected and harder than she imagined. By month 6, she had 12 confirmed kills, each one authorized, each one necessary, each one a small death inside her chest that accumulated like debt she could not repay. Afghanistan smelled like diesel and ancient dust, and the kind of heat that made men question their choices at a cellular level. The place felt less like deployment, and more like a slow fade into something she could not name. And somewhere in the space between extraction and execution, she was learning that war was mostly waiting, punctuated by moments when everything happened at once. Forward Operating Base Apache sat in Kunar Province like a wound that refused to heal. HESCO barriers and concertina wire. Guard towers manned by men who aged a year for every month they spent staring at ridgelines that could hide an army or nothing at all. The base was home to 200 souls who counted days until they could leave and nights, until they could sleep without wondering if tonight was the night a rocket found their rack. Elena lived in a plywood hooch with 3 other female soldiers. She did not know their names, did not want to. They rotated in and out on different schedules, and Elena kept her interactions limited to nods and the occasional acknowledgement of shared space. Duke slept under her cot, the only living thing she allowed close. Her team was different. Professional proximity forced connection whether she wanted it or not. Colonel Marcus Hale commanded the compound with the same quiet intensity he brought to everything. 48 years old and carrying the weight of decisions that kept him awake long after everyone else found sleep. He ran the FOB like a man who knew that every order he gave could be someone's last, and he had stopped trying to make peace with that fact. Lieutenant Ava Chen handled intelligence, maps and drone feeds and pattern analysis that turned chaos into something approaching order. She was good at it, better than good. The kind of analyst who saw connections others missed and never said "I told you so" when her predictions proved accurate. Jackson Cole had made it through training, graduated 3 months after Elena, deployed 2 months after that. Now he was her spotter, her partner, the man who lay beside her on overwatch positions and calculated wind drift and trusted her not to get them both killed. They had learned to work together the way soldiers do, through necessity and repetition, and the understanding that talking about feelings was less important than knowing each other's breathing patterns. Sergeant Derek Vaughn was there too, still skeptical, still watching Elena like she was a problem waiting to happen. But 6 months of combat had a way of changing perspectives. She had saved his life twice, once by shooting a Taliban fighter who had Vaughn zeroed from 300 meters, once by calling off an airstrike when her scope showed children playing in a compound Vaughn had already cleared for destruction. He did not thank her for either, but he stopped questioning her judgment. The missions blurred together after a while. Overwatch positions on supply routes, counter-sniper operations against fighters who knew the terrain better than any map could show, high-value target interdictions that usually ended with empty compounds and cold tea, and the sense that the enemy was always 1 step ahead because this was their home and the Americans were just passing through. Elena had 12 confirmed kills in 6 months, clean shots, authorized targets, men with rifles who chose violence and received precision in return. She did not celebrate them, did not mark her rifle, did not keep count beyond what the after-action reports required. Each one felt like a small death inside her chest, not guilt exactly. Guilt implied she thought she was wrong. These were righteous kills, necessary kills, men who would have killed Americans if given the chance. But righteous did not mean easy. She thought about David Park sometimes. The note he left, "Do not waste it killing, waste it saving." She wondered if there was a difference when the saving required the killing, if the math worked out to something approaching redemption, or if it all just added up to bodies in the ground and names that would be forgotten before the memorials were built. The mission briefing came on a Tuesday morning when the temperature was already climbing past comfortable into the range, where sweat stopped evaporating and just collected in places that made movement miserable. Hale stood at the front of the operations tent. Behind him, a map of the province marked with red circles and blue triangles and dotted lines that represented borders no one on the ground actually respected. The briefing room was full. 24 operators, support staff, drone pilots who fought the war from air-conditioned containers and still went home with stress injuries that took years to heal. "Listen up," Hale said, voice cutting through the low murmur of men who knew something big was coming and were already calculating survival odds. We have actionable intel on a high-value target. Taliban commander operating out of the Paksha region. Codename Rashid the Red. He clicked a remote. The projector hummed to life. A grainy photo appeared. A man in his 40s, thick beard, eyes that looked through the camera instead of at it. The kind of eyes that had seen too much violence and decided to make it a lifestyle. Chen stepped forward. Rashid earned his nickname the old-fashioned way. Machete executions, 40-plus confirmed civilian deaths. Women, children, village elders who refuse to cooperate. He is brutal, effective, and has been operating in our area of operations for 8 months. Why are we just hearing about him now? Cole asked. Because he moves constantly, Chen said. Never stays in one location more than 48 hours. Uses civilians as shields, blends into populations. Classic insurgent tactics, but 3 days ago we got a break. Asset on the ground confirmed he will be at a compound outside Jalalabad tomorrow night. Small security element, limited civilian presence. Hale took over. Mission is simple, capture or kill, preferably capture. He has intel we need, but if capture is not feasible we are authorized to eliminate. He looked directly at Elena. Reeves, you are primary sniper, overwatch position on the ridge. 1,800 meters to target compound. Cole is your spotter. Vaughn leads the assault element. Chen coordinates from here. Wheels up at 0300. Questions. Civilian presence, Elena said. You said limited, define that. Chen clicked to the next slide. Satellite imagery showed the compound. Mud walls, flat roof. 3 structures clustered around a central courtyard. Best estimate is 4 to 6 non-combatants, probably family members. Intel says Rashid keeps them close. Human shields. Rules of engagement, Elena asked. Hale's jaw tightened. Standard row applies. Minimize civilian casualties. But if it comes down to American lives versus their lives, you make the call that gets our people home. Elena said nothing, just stared at the photo of Rashid, at eyes that reminded her of someone. Took her a moment to place it. Then she did. Her father. Not the features, the expression. That flat affect that came from seeing so much death that it stopped registering as tragedy and became just another Tuesday. She had seen that look in mirrors, especially in the early days when turning off her emotions felt like strength instead of surrender. Meeting adjourned, Hale said. Get your gear squared away. Try to get some sleep. Tomorrow we bring this bastard in. The team dispersed. Elena stayed behind, stared at the photo a moment longer. Chen noticed, you okay? Fine. You do not look fine. Elena turned, met Chen's eyes. He looks familiar. Chen tilted her head. You have seen him before. No, he just looks like someone who does not want to die. Chen processed that. Most people do not want to die. Most people are afraid of it, Elena said. He is not. Look at his eyes. That is not fear. That is resignation. He has already made peace with dying. Men like that are the most dangerous because they have nothing left to lose. So what do we do with men like that? Elena picked up her rifle. We give them what they have already accepted. She walked out before Chen could respond. Duke followed. The dog had learned to read her moods better than most humans, knew when she needed space and when she needed proximity. Right now he stayed close, head occasionally bumping her leg as they crossed the compound toward the hooch. Cole caught up to her halfway there. Hey, you good for tomorrow? Yes. 1,800 meters is a long shot. I have made longer. In training, Cole said, this is different. This guy is not a steel plate, and there will be civilians in the compound. I know. Cole studied her, really looked. saw something that made him stop walking. What is going on in your head right now? Elena stopped too, turned to face him. You ever wonder if we are the good guys? Cole blinked. What? We come into their country, bomb their homes, kill their people, and we call it liberation. They call it invasion. Who is right? We are right, Cole said, but there was less certainty in his voice than he probably wanted. We did not start this. 9/11 started this. And what did the kids in that compound do? Elena asked. The ones who will be there tomorrow when we breach. What did they do to deserve growing up in a war zone? Cole had no answer for that. Nobody did. Elena shouldered her rifle. Get some sleep, Cole. Tomorrow is going to be a long day. She walked away, left him standing in the dust with questions he did not know how to ask and answers she did not know how to give. Sleep did not come easy that night. Elena lay in her rack staring at plywood ceiling and thinking about David Park, about her father, about all the men who came home from war and could not figure out how to live with what they had done. Duke whined softly from under the cot. She reached down, let her fingers trail through his fur. He pressed into her hand. Simple comfort, the kind that did not require words or explanations or justifications. At 02:30 she gave up on sleep, rose, dressed, geared up in the dark while the other women in the hooch slept through their alarms and the routines that had become muscle memory. By 0300 the team was staged. Hello spun up, rotors beating the air into submission. Elena climbed into the bird with her rifle and her doubts, and the understanding that in about 4 hours she would have a man in her crosshairs and a decision to make that would echo for the rest of her life. The flight was loud, conversation impossible over the turbine scream. Elena sat with her eyes closed and her breathing controlled, 4 counts in, 6 counts out, the rhythm her father taught her, the rhythm that kept her steady when everything else was chaos. Cole sat across from her, Vaughn beside him, both men checking weapons and gear with the obsessive attention that separated soldiers who went home from soldiers who did not. 30 minutes later the helo flared, settled into a landing zone 8 clicks from the target. The team offloaded into darkness so complete it felt solid. Night vision turned the world into green phosphor ghosts. They moved in file. Elena and Cole peeled off after 2 clicks, headed toward the ridge while Vaughn took the assault element toward the staging area. The climb was steep, loose rock and switchbacks that made noise discipline critical. They moved slowly, deliberately, reached the ridgeline 90 minutes before sunrise. Elena set up her hide, Cole beside her with the spotting scope. Below them the valley spread out like a tactical map made real. The compound was there, exactly where intel said it would be, lights off, quiet, waiting. Now they waited too. The sun rose slowly, painted the mountains in shades of copper and gold, beautiful if you could forget that beauty did not stop bullets. 0600, movement in the compound. A man emerged, not Rashid, one of his fighters, stretching, yawning, carrying an AK-47 like it was part of his morning routine. Cole glassed the compound, counted bodies, marked positions, 2 guards visible, probably more inside, still no sign of Rashid. 0730, a vehicle approached, old Toyota pickup, dust trail visible from 2 kilometers out. It pulled into the compound. 3 men exited, one of them was Rashid. Cole confirmed, that is him, northwest corner, gray shalwar camis, beard matches the file photo. Elena already had him in her scope, watched him embrace one of the guards, laugh at something someone said, human, present, alive. She calculated the shot, 1,800 meters, wind northeast at 8 miles per hour, temperature rising, barometric pressure stable, elevation drop significant, bullet would take nearly 3 seconds to arrive. 3 seconds was a lifetime, enough time for him to move, for someone to walk into the line of fire, for everything to change. Chen's voice crackled over the radio. Reaper 1, this is Overwatch. Target confirmed. You are green to engage. Cole looked at Elena. You're shot. She settled in, stock against shoulder, cheek against rest, eye behind scope. Rashid was talking to someone, gesturing, animated. Whatever he was saying must have been funny because the men around him were laughing. Her finger found the trigger, 7.9 pounds to break the sear. She started applying pressure. Then the door to the main building opened. A woman emerged, young, maybe 20, carrying a child, infant, wrapped in cloth. The woman walked toward Rashid. He turned. His whole face changed, softened. He took the child, held it like it was the most precious thing in a world built on violence. Cole saw it too. Civilian, woman and child, still have the shot, but it is complicated. Elena kept her crosshairs on Rashid's head. Perfect angle, clean entry. One bullet and this man who had murdered dozens would stop murdering anyone ever again. The child started crying. Rashid bounced it gently, made faces. The kind of faces fathers make when they are trying to soothe babies who do not understand that the world is anything but soft sounds and warm arms. Do you have the shot? Cole asked quietly. Yes. Then take it. Elena's finger was at 8.2 pounds, 0.7 away from firing. She could feel the trigger wanting to break, begging for that last fraction of pressure. Rashid kissed the child's forehead. Elena shifted her aim, 2 feet left, fired. The bullet took 3.1 seconds to travel 1,800 meters. In that time, Rashid handed the child back to the woman, turned, started walking toward the vehicle. The round impacted the vehicle's front tire. Rubber exploded. The truck listed hard to the right. Chaos erupted. Men scattered. Rashid grabbed the woman and child, pulled them toward the building. Elena worked the bolt, acquired the satellite dish on the roof, fired. The dish disintegrated into scrap metal and severed cables. Third shot, the generator, sparks flew, power died. Fourth shot, second vehicle tire. Cole was yelling something. She could not hear him over the sound of her own breathing. Rashid and the woman disappeared into the building. His fighters took positions, returned fire in the general direction they thought the shots came from. 1,800 meters was too far. Their bullets fell short by half a kilometer. Vaughn's voice on the radio, panicked, angry. Reaper 1, what are you doing? You had the shot. Elena keyed her mic. Negative, too many civilians, aborting sniper solution. Recommend ground assault. There was a pause, static, then Hale's voice. Reaper 1, confirm you had clear shot on primary target. Affirmative. And you did not take it. Correct. Why? Because the shot was wrong. Hale's voice went cold. That is not your determination to make, Sergeant. Ground assault was backup option. Sniper solution was primary. You just put my men at risk because you decided Roe did not apply to you. With respect, sir, I followed Roe. Minimal civilian casualties. That woman and child would have been in the blast radius when his skull fragmented. I made the judgment call. The line went quiet for 10 seconds that felt like 10 years. Finally, Hale came back. Vaughn, execute ground assault. Reeves, stay on Overwatch, provide cover fire only. We will discuss this when you get back. The assault was messy. Vaughn and his team breached the compound under cover from Elena's rifle. She put rounds through windows where muzzle flashes appeared, kept Rashid's fighters pinned, gave the assault element the seconds they needed to get inside. The fighting was close, brutal. Rifle reports and grenade concussions and men screaming in languages that all meant the same thing when reduced to pain and fear. 20 minutes later, it was over. Vaughn's voice came over comms. Compound secure. 5 enemy KIA, 1 wounded. Rashid is not among them. Cole looked at Elena through his scope. Where is he? She scanned the compound. Movement in the back corner. A figure climbing over the wall, running toward the tree line. Rashid. He had the woman with him, still carrying the child. Elena put him in her crosshairs. Easy shot now, 400 meters, no wind, clear line of sight. Her finger went to the trigger. Rashid stumbled. The woman caught him. They kept running. The child was crying. Elena could not hear it, but she could see the infant's face. Red, terrified. Too young to understand that the world was full of men like its father and women like Elena, and the distance between them was measured in bullet trajectories and moral calculations that had no right answer. She took her finger off the trigger. Let them run. Cole stared at her. What are you doing? Letting him go. Elena, that is the target. That is the mission. Mission was capture or kill. We captured his compound, his fighters, his weapons cache. He is running into the mountains with nothing but the clothes on his back and a woman who will slow him down and a child who will need food and water and shelter. He is done. Finished. No longer a threat. Cole shook his head. You do not know that. He could rebuild, recruit new fighters, come back stronger. Then we will find him again. But I will not shoot a man holding a baby. Not today. She started packing her rifle. The conversation was over. The exfil helo arrived 30 minutes later. The team loaded up along with 5 detainees and enough weapons to supply a small war. Elena climbed aboard last, sat in the corner. Duke pressed against her leg. Vaughn stared at her from across the cargo bay. His eyes held something between respect and disgust. She could not tell which was stronger. Cole sat beside her, leaned close so she could hear him over the rotors. You know you are in deep trouble when we get back. I know. Was it worth it? Elena looked out the open door at the mountains disappearing behind them. I do not know yet. The debriefing was brutal. Hale stood behind his desk, chin to his left. 3 other officers Elena did not know to his right. The room felt small, designed that way, make the person being questioned uncomfortable, off balance. Elena stood at attention. Duke was back at the hooch. This was not a place for dogs. Sergeant Graves, Hale began, voice clipped, professional. You had clear authorization to eliminate HVT Rashid. You had the shot. You did not take it. Explain. Woman and child in proximity, sir. Risk of civilian casualties was too high. The child was not in your line of fire. The child was in the target's arms, sir. Ballistic fragmentation from a headshot at that range would have resulted in shrapnel dispersion across a 6-foot radius. The child and woman were both within that radius. One of the officers Elena did not know spoke up. Sergeant, are you aware that your hesitation allowed a high-value target to escape? A target responsible for the deaths of over 40 civilians. Yes, sir. And you believe your judgment call was correct? I believe I followed rules of engagement as outlined in our operational orders. Minimize civilian casualties. I minimized them to 0. By letting a mass murderer escape, the officer said. By not killing a baby, Elena replied. The room went quiet. Hale rubbed his eyes, looked older than 48. Elena, you are one of the best shooters I have ever trained. Your technical skills are beyond question. but this is the second time in 6 months you have refused to take an authorized shot because of civilians in the area. Third time, sir. Hale's head snapped up. What? Third time, there was a mission in April. Village elder. Intel said he was Taliban sympathizer. I had the shot. His grandchildren were playing in the courtyard. I determined the risk was too high, called it off, recommended alternate approach. We captured him the next day. No shots fired. Why was that not in your after-action report? Because I did not think it was worth mentioning, sir. I made a tactical decision. It worked. Mission success. Hale stood, walked to the window, looked out at the compound, at men going about their routines, training, eating, trying to stay alive long enough to go home. You are putting other operators at risk, he said quietly. Every time you hesitate, every time you choose mercy over mission completion, you force men like Vaughn to go into compounds that could have been handled from distance. You endanger lives to save lives. Do you see the problem? Yes, sir. Do you care? Elena met his eyes. Of course I care. But I care more about not becoming the kind of soldier who murders children in the name of mission accomplishment. The other officers shifted uncomfortably. One of them cleared his throat. Sergeant Graves, no one is asking you to murder children. Then what are you asking me to do? Elena said. Because from where I stand you are telling me that if a target is holding a baby, I should shoot through the baby to kill the target. Please correct me if I am wrong. No one corrected her. Hale turned from the window. Sergeant Graves, you are hereby relieved of sniper duties pending psychological evaluation. You will report to the medical officer tomorrow morning for full assessment. Until then, you are confined to base. Dismissed. Elena saluted, turned, walked out. The door closed behind her and she stood in the hallway breathing deliberately. 4 counts in, 6 counts out, trying to keep her hands from shaking. Chen found her there 5 minutes later. That was brave, Chen said. That was stupid. Maybe both. They walked together toward the hooch. The sun was setting, painting the mountains in colors that had no business being that beautiful in a place that produced so much ugliness. You know what is going to happen now, Chen said. They are going to send me home. Probably. Good. Chen stopped walking. You mean that? Elena stopped too, looked at her. I came here to prove I was not my father, that I could do this job without losing myself, and I learned something. What? That maybe losing yourself is the job. Maybe you cannot do this work without becoming something you do not recognize. And maybe the smart ones figure that out before they are too broken to put back together. Your father did not figure it out in time. No, he did not, and I will not make his mistake. They reached the hooch. Chen put a hand on Elena's shoulder. For what it is worth, I think you made the right call. Which one? All of them. Chen walked away, left Elena standing in the gathering dark with her rifle and her doubts, and the growing certainty that she had crossed a line today that could not be uncrossed. The psych eval happened at 0800 the next morning. The doctor was Air Force. Major Patterson, 50s, kind eyes, the sort of psychiatrist who actually seemed to care instead of just checking boxes on forms. He gestured to a chair. Elena sat, looked around the office. Diplomas on the wall, books about trauma and resilience and the various ways war broke people. Sergeant Graves, Patterson said, I have read your file, impressive record, top marks in training, 12 confirmed kills, 0 civilian casualties. That last part is unusual. Is it? Most snipers at your deployment tempo have at least one incident. Collateral damage, Wrong place, wrong time, the nature of the work. I am careful, Elena said. Patterson nodded. You are also the daughter of Daniel Graves, scout sniper, died in action 2016. Suicide, Elena corrected. He died by suicide. The file says killed in action. The file lies. Patterson made a note. Tell me about your father. Elena looked at him, really looked, trying to decide if this was genuine interest or just another manipulation to get her talking. She decided it did not matter. The truth was the truth regardless of who was listening. My father was a good soldier and a bad father, she said. He taught me everything about shooting and nothing about living. He killed people for his country and it destroyed him. When I was 16, he put a gun in his mouth. By the time he actually pulled the trigger 2 years later, it was just a formality. He had been dead inside for a long time. And you worry you are becoming him. I do not worry. I know I am. Every time I look through a scope, I see his eyes looking back. Every time I take a shot, I wonder if this is the one that breaks me the way he broke. But you did not take the shot yesterday. No. Why not? Because he was holding a baby, and I decided that some shots are not worth taking regardless of who gives the order. Patterson leaned back, made another note. Longer this time. When he looked up, his expression had changed. Less clinical, more human. Sergeant Graves, I am going to be honest with you. Your psychological profile shows classic signs of combat stress, hypervigilance, emotional numbing, difficulty forming attachments, but it also shows something else, moral injury. What is that? It is what happens when you are forced to do things that violate your core values, when the job requires you to become someone you cannot live with. Your father had it. Most combat vets have some degree of it. The question is whether you can integrate it or whether it destroys you. Elena said nothing. Patterson continued. The shots you did not take, those were not failures. Those were you trying to stay human in a system designed to make you a weapon. And the fact that you are fighting that process means you still have a chance. A chance at what? At coming home and being someone who can look in the mirror without flinching. Elena felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, just shifting, the way ice cracks when the temperature finally starts to rise. What happens now? She asked. Now I make my recommendation to Colonel Hale, and then command decides what to do with you. What will you recommend? Patterson met her eyes. That you are fit for duty, but not as a sniper, not anymore. You have crossed a threshold. You care too much to do this work effectively, and that is not an insult. It is the highest compliment I can give. 3 days later, the orders came through. Elena was reassigned, stateside, training command. No more deployments, no more combat, no more standing on ridgelines with other people's lives measured in kilograms of trigger pressure. She should have felt relieved. Instead, she felt empty. Hale called her to his office one last time before she left. The room looked the same. Maps on the wall, photos of men who did not all make it home, the weight of command visible in every crease on his face. Sit, he said. She sat. I failed you, Hale said without preamble. Sir, I trained you to be a weapon. Then I tried to make you human again. But you cannot be both. Not really. And by trying to force you into that impossible space, I put you in a position where every choice was wrong. Elena shook her head. You gave me the tools to survive this. I chose how to use them. Your father made different choices. My father did not have someone like you, or Chen, or even Vaughn. He was alone with his demons. I am not. That makes all the difference. Hale was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he opened a drawer, pulled out a small wooden box, set it on the desk. "This belonged to Daniel," he said. "I have been carrying it since Fallujah, waiting for the right time to give it to someone who would understand what it means." He pushed the box toward her. Elena opened it. Inside was a single bullet, rifle cartridge, unfired. "Your father carried this for 8 years," Hale said, "called it his last bullet, the one he would not fire. He said as long as he had one round he refused to use it meant he still had a choice, still had control." "When did he fire it?" Elena asked. "He did not, that is it, the one he kept, the one that meant he could still choose not to kill." Elena picked up the bullet, felt the weight of it, heavier than it should be. "The day he died," Hale said, "there was a mission, compound outside Ramadi, high-value target. Intel said minimal civilian presence. We set up overwatch. Your father had the shot, perfect conditions. Then he saw them." "Saw what?" "Children, 40 of them, school in session in the building next to the target. Intel was wrong, or maybe the target knew, used the school as a shield. I gave your father the order anyway, take the shot, complete the mission." "And he did?" Hale nodded. "He did, killed the target, and the explosion brought down part of the school. 12 children died. Your father requested immediate discharge. I denied it, told him it was not his fault. Orders were clear, but he knew, and he could not live with it. 3 months later he walked into that ambush. Saved 6 men doing it. But I think he was looking for a way to die that looked like honor instead of guilt." Elena closed the box, felt tears on her face, did not try to hide them. "I am giving this to you," Hale said, "because you made the choice your father could not. You saw the baby, had the shot, and you refused. You kept your last bullet. That means you are stronger than he was, and maybe that means you get to live with yourself in ways he never could." Elena stood, took the box, held it like it was the most precious thing she had ever been given. "Thank you, sir." Hale stood too, extended his hand. She shook it. "Go home, Sergeant Graves. Teach others what I could not teach your father. That knowing when not to shoot is harder and more important than knowing when to pull the trigger." Elena saluted, turned, walked out with her father's last bullet and her own future uncertain but maybe finally her own. The flight home was long. Elena sat in the cargo hold of a C-17 surrounded by men who were also leaving, some wounded, some finished with their tour, all of them carrying weight that would take years to unpack. Duke slept beside her, head on her lap, steady presence in a world that refused to stay still. Cole found her before they boarded, shook her hand. "No hard feelings, you did what you thought was right." "Did I?" Elena asked. Cole shrugged. "Does not matter now. What matters is you are going home, alive. That is more than a lot of people get." "What about Rashid?" Cole's face went neutral. "Intel says he made it to Pakistan, disappeared into the tribal areas. Could be dead, could be recruiting, we may never know." "And the woman, the baby?" Cole looked away. "No confirmation either way. They scattered when the compound fell. That is all we know." Elena felt something settle in her chest. Not peace, not satisfaction, just the cold understanding that in war you rarely got clean endings. You got choices, and consequences, and the space between them where you lived or died or learned to carry both. She boarded the plane, found her seat, closed her eyes. And for the first time since her father died she prayed. Not to God, she had never believed in God, but to something, anything. That would make sense of a world where doing the right thing still ended with dead babies and the understanding that sometimes there were no right choices, only choices, and you lived with them or you did not. 18 hours later she landed stateside, processing, debriefs, medical, the machinery of military bureaucracy grinding through her paperwork. Chen called her 2 weeks after she got back. "How are you doing?" Chen asked. "I do not know yet." "Fair, listen, I thought you should know. More intel came in on Rashid. He surfaced briefly in Peshawar. Pakistani ISI reported activity, then he went dark again." Elena sat down, processing, so he is still out there. Probably the woman and child. No confirmation on them either. They could have made it. Could have died in the crossing. Border region is chaos. We may never know for certain. So I saved them, or I did not. Chen was quiet. Then, you gave them a chance. That is more than they would have had if you took the shot with the baby in your arms. Intention matters even when outcome stays uncertain. Does it? Chen's voice was firm. Yes, it does. Your father shot the children because he followed orders without question. You refused to shoot the baby because you questioned everything. That difference, that is what keeps you human. They talked a while longer, then said goodbye. Elena sat in her apartment. First real apartment she had ever had, furniture from Goodwill, walls bare except for one photo, her father, young, before the war, before everything. Duke pressed against her leg. She looked at the wooden box on her table, opened it, took out the bullet. Rolled it between her fingers. Her father's last bullet, the one he kept until he could not keep it anymore. She had her own now. The shot she did not take, would never take, her line in the sand. Some bullets were meant to be fired. Some were meant to be kept as reminders that you still had the choice. Elena put the bullet back in the box. Closed it. Decided to live. Quantico smelled different than Afghanistan. Clean. Organized. The kind of place where grass grew in perfect rows and buildings stood at right angles and nobody was trying to kill you. Elena Graves had been stateside for 18 months and still woke up some mornings expecting to find dust on her boots and the weight of her rifle across her chest. Instead she found Duke. The dog was 11 now, gray around the muzzle, slower on the stairs, but his eyes were still sharp, and when she had nightmares he was always there. Steady presence. Reminder that some things survived the war intact. The FBI training facility sprawled across acres of Virginia woodland. Obstacle courses and shooting ranges and mock buildings designed to simulate every crisis scenario law enforcement might face. Elena taught here now. Sniper instructor. The irony was not lost on her. A woman who had refused to take shots now teaching others when to pull the trigger. Her students were different than SEAL recruits. Older, more measured. Police SWAT teams and federal agents who had chosen this work after years on the job. They were not trying to prove they were hard. They already knew they were. They were trying to become precise. Elena was good at teaching precision. The classroom was small. 20 students, 16 men, 4 women, all of them with thousands of hours behind rifles and the understanding that the next shot they took might end up on national news with their name attached and everyone second-guessing whether it was justified. She stood at the front. No uniform now, just tactical pants and a bureau polo shirt, hair tied back, face neutral, the same expression she wore when she was hunting. Today we talk about the 10 seconds after, she said. The students looked up from their notebooks, confused. One of them raised a hand. Special Agent Marcus Hayes, former Army Ranger, good shooter, better human. 10 seconds after what, he asked. After you fire, Elena said. After the bullet leaves the barrel and you are committed and there is no calling it back. Those 10 seconds while you wait to see if you made the right choice. Those are the seconds that determine whether you sleep that night or whether you stare at the ceiling wondering if there was another way. This is sniper training, another student said, not philosophy class. Elena looked at him. Agent Reese. Young, confident. The kind of confidence that came from never having made a mistake that cost someone their life. You are right, she said. This is sniper training. And the most important thing I can teach you is not how to make the shot. You already know that. What you do not know yet is how to live with yourself after. So we are going to talk about it now before you are lying in a hide at 3 in the morning with your finger on a trigger and a hostage's life measured in pounds of pressure. The room went quiet. Elena pulled up a photo on the projector. Compound in Afghanistan, mud walls, flat roof. She had looked at this image 1,000 times, could see it when she closed her eyes. This was my last operational mission, she said. High-value target, confirmed kills of 40+ civilians. I had authorization, I had the shot, and I did not take it. Why not? Hayes asked. Because he was holding a baby. She let that sit, watched the students process it. Some nodded, some looked confused. Reese looked skeptical. So you let a murderer walk, Reese said. I let a man holding an infant live, Elena corrected. There is a difference. Is there? Reese pushed back. Because that man went on to kill more people. That baby you saved. Drone strike got it 3 days later along with its mother. So what did your mercy accomplish besides more death? Elena met his eyes, did not blink. You have been reading my file. Public record. Court-martial proceedings are not classified. I was not court-martialed, I was reassigned. Because they could not prove you were wrong, but you were, tactically, strategically, morally. You had a chance to stop a killer and you chose feelings over mission. That is not what we do. Elena walked to the front of his desk, looked down at him, really looked. Stand up, she said. Reese stood, uncomfortable now, aware that he had crossed a line. How many people have you killed? Elena asked. Excuse me. How many in the line of duty? How many people have you shot? Reese shifted. 3, all justified. Good, now tell me their names. I do not remember their names. Tell me their faces then. Describe them. Tell me what they were wearing, what the weather was like, what you had for breakfast that morning. Tell me everything about the moment you ended a human life. Reese said nothing. You do not remember, Elena said, because you have not lived with it long enough yet. Give it 5 years, 10. Let those faces show up in your dreams. Let yourself wonder if there was a wife, kids, parents who will never know what happened. Let all of that accumulate until you understand that every bullet you fire echoes forever. Then come talk to me about feelings versus mission. She walked back to the front of the room, pulled up another slide, different photo, man in tactical gear, rifle, American flag patch on his shoulder. This was my father, she said, scout sniper. 47 confirmed kills. He took every shot he was ordered to take. Followed every protocol, did his job without question. And when he came home, he put a gun in his mouth because he could not live with the things he had done in the name of following orders. She turned to face the class. I teach you when not to shoot because I watched what happens when soldiers become machines, when we stop asking if we should and only ask if we can. My father was the best shooter I ever knew, and he died hating himself. So forgive me if I think there is value in hesitation, in doubt, in the uncomfortable space between authorization and execution where we remember we are human. The room was silent. Finally Hayes spoke. What happened to the target, the one you let go? Still out there, Elena said. Far as I know, maybe dead, maybe alive. I do not get updates anymore. But that baby he was holding, the one that died 3 days later, that was not my bullet, that was someone else's choice, and they have to live with it, not me. She turned off the projector. Class dismissed. Range time in 30 minutes. I want to see 5-round groups at 400 meters. Wind is northeast at 12 miles per hour. Compensate accordingly. The students filed out, all except Hayes. He lingered, pretended to organize his notes. "Can I ask you something?" he said when they were alone. "Go ahead." "Do you regret it, letting him go?" Elena considered the question, gave it the weight it deserved. "Every day," she said, "but I do not regret refusing to shoot a baby. Those are different things. You can regret an outcome without regretting a choice. That is what living with this job looks like." Hayes nodded, started to leave, stopped. "My daughter is 3 months old," he said, "first kid. I hold her every night before I come here, and I wonder what I am doing, learning to kill people, coming home and holding this tiny human who trusts me completely." Elena understood. "Go home tonight. Look at her. Remember her face, because that face is the reason you do this work, and that face is the reason you have to be careful about how you do it. The world needs people willing to use violence to protect the innocent, but it also needs those people to remember why the innocent are worth protecting." Hayes left. Elena stood alone in the classroom, looked at the photos still on the projector screen. Her father, young and alive and whole, before the war, before the killing, before the choice that broke him. She turned it off. The call came 3 weeks later. Elena was on the range, coaching a student through wind calculations. Her phone buzzed. Unknown number. She almost ignored it. Then something made her answer. "This is Graves." "Sergeant Graves," a voice said. "This is Special Agent Dixon, FBI Critical Incident Response Group. We have a situation, need a consultant. Your name came up." "I am not operational anymore." "We know, that is why we want you. We need someone who can talk a shooter down, not take them out. Your file says you are good at finding alternatives to lethal force." "What is the situation?" "Hostage crisis. Downtown D.C., office building. Suspect is former military, vet with PTSD. He has 4 hostages and a rifle. Demands are incoherent. Local SWAT has him contained, but they are running out of time and patience. We think you can help." Elena closed her eyes, saw David Park, saw her father, saw every broken veteran who came home from war and could not find their way back to peace. "When do you need me?" "Now." She was in D.C. 90 minutes later. The office building was Cordovan glass and steel, 15 stories, surrounded by police vehicles and barricades and media trucks already broadcasting live feeds to a country that consumed tragedy like entertainment. Agent Dixon met her at the perimeter, 40s, lean, eyes that had seen too many situations like this end badly. "Appreciate you coming," he said, "briefed you on the drive." Former Marine, Elena recited. 2 tour Iraq. Honorable discharge 2019. Name is Thomas Keller, 34 years old. Works building security. Showed up for his shift this morning with a rifle and took 4 people hostage on the 8th floor. Says he is not leaving until someone listens. Listens to what? That is the problem. He is not making sense. Keeps talking about Fallujah, about burning buildings, about children. Negotiators have been trying for 3 hours, getting nowhere. "Let me talk to him," Elena said. Dixon handed her a headset. "You are not a trained negotiator." "No, but I am someone who understands." The line connected. Background noise, someone breathing hard, crying, not Keller, one of the hostages. "Thomas Keller," Elena said. "My name is Elena. I am not a cop, not FBI. I am a veteran like you. Can we talk?" Silence, then a voice, shaky, exhausted. "Who are you?" "Someone who has been where you are." You do not know where I am. Fallujah, Elena said. 2007. Burning buildings, children, you were following orders, and something went wrong, and you have been carrying it ever since. More silence. Then how do you know? Because I carry the same thing, different city, different year, same weight. What do you want? I want to understand. Tell me what happened. Another long pause. Then Keller started talking. Words tumbling out like a dam breaking, told her about the mission, the compound, intel that was wrong, the explosion that brought down a school, 14 kids dead. His squad blamed, investigated, eventually cleared, but the clearance did not matter because the faces never left. I see them, Keller said, every night, every time I close my eyes, and nobody understands. My wife does not understand. My therapist does not understand. I came home and everyone said thank you for your service and then forgot I existed. I understand, Elena said. No, you do not. You are out there. Safe. I am in here with a rifle and 4 people who hate me, and I do not even know why I am doing this. I just could not go another day pretending I am okay. Put the rifle down, Thomas. Let the hostages go. We can talk, really talk, not through a phone, face to face. And then what? Prison, psych ward. Either way, I am gone. Or maybe you get help, real help, from people who actually understand what you are carrying. Keller laughed, bitter. You think help exists? I have been to the VA, I have done the therapy, I have taken the pills, nothing works, nothing touches it. Elena looked at Dixon, mouthed the words, I am going in. Dixon shook his head, no way. She muted the mic, looked at him. That man is not a threat. He is broken, and he is going to hurt himself or those hostages unless someone shows him there is another way. I can do that. You are not trained for this. I am trained for exactly this. I have been that man. I know what he needs to hear. Let me try. Dixon looked at his tactical commander. The commander shrugged. Your call. Dixon nodded. You have 10 minutes. Anything goes wrong, we breach. Elena unmuted. Thomas, I'm coming up, just me. No weapons, no tricks, just 2 vets having a conversation. Do not, I will shoot. No, you will not, because if you were going to shoot someone, you would have already done it. You are not here to hurt people. You are here because you are hurting. Let me help. She handed the headset to Dixon, started toward the building. The lobby was empty, evacuated. Her footsteps echoed on marble floors that cost more than most people made in a year. She found the stairs, started climbing. 8 floors, she took them slowly, breathing controlled, heart rate steady. The same calm she brought to the rifle, to teaching, to everything that required her to be present instead of distant. She reached the 8th floor. The door was barricaded from the inside. She knocked. Thomas, it is Elena, let me in. Movement behind the door, furniture scraping, then it opened. Thomas Keller stood there, rifle in his hands but pointed down, face haggard, eyes red, the look of a man who had been awake for days, fueled by desperation and demons that had names and faces he could not forget. Behind him 4 hostages, 3 women, 1 man, zip-tied to chairs, terrified but unharmed. Elena stepped inside, hands visible, empty, non-threatening. Thank you for letting me in. Keller gestured with the rifle. Sit, over there. She sat, he paced. The rifle moved with him, not aimed but ready. Elena tracked it with peripheral vision while keeping her eyes on his face. Tell me what you need, she said. I need to not see their faces anymore. I need 1 night of sleep without the screaming. I need my wife to look at me like I am a person instead of a problem. I do not even know. You need someone to tell you, it was not your fault. Keller stopped pacing, looked at her. It was my fault. I called in the coordinates. I gave the green light. Following orders that were based on bad intel is not fault. It is tragedy, but it is not your fault. Everyone keeps saying that. It does not help. I know, Elena said, because fault and responsibility are not the same thing. You are not at fault, but you carry responsibility. We all do, for every shot, every call, every decision, and that weight does not go away, but it changes over time if you let it. How? By remembering that you are more than one bad day, more than one mission. You came home, you got married, you found work, you built a life. That counts, that matters. Does it? Because right now I am the guy with hostages, the guy on the news. That is all anyone will remember. Then change the narrative, put down the rifle, let these people go, walk out with me. Show everyone that you are a man asking for help instead of a threat that needs to be eliminated. Keller's hands shook, the rifle wobbled. I am scared. I know that is human, be scared, but be scared and still choose to walk out of here. What if I cannot? Then I will stay with you. We will figure it out together, but those people, they did not sign up for this. Let them go. Whatever you need to work through, we can do it without them here. Keller looked at the hostages, really looked, saw them as people, not props, not shields, just terrified humans who wanted to go home to their families. He lowered the rifle, set it on the floor, kicked it away. Okay, he said, okay. Elena stood, walked to the hostages, started cutting their zip ties with a pocket knife Dixon had given her. One by one they stood, filed out. The last one stopped, looked back at Keller. Thank you, she said. Keller did not respond, just stared at the floor. When the hostages were gone, Elena returned to him, sat beside him on the floor, not across from him, beside him, same level, same space. My father killed children too, she said, following orders, bad intel, same story, different war. He could not live with it, took his life. I found out years later, and I swore I would not make his mistake. Did you? Almost came close, had a shot, baby in the crosshairs, could have taken it. Mission required it, I did not. Let the target walk, lost my career over it. Do you regret it? Every day, but I sleep at night. My father never did, so I choose regret over self-destruction, not because it is easy, because it is survivable. Keller wiped his eyes. What happens now? Now you walk out with me. You get arrested, probably, but you also get help. Real help, not VA bureaucracy. I will make sure of it. I know people, programs, places that actually understand combat trauma. You will do time, maybe, but you will also do healing. And one day you will look back at today and understand it was not the end, just the bottom, and the only direction from the bottom is up. Keller nodded, stood. Elena stood with him. They walked to the door together, opened it. The stairwell was full of tactical officers, rifles raised, shouting. Hands, let me see your hands. Keller raised his hands. Elena stepped between him and the rifles. He is surrendering, she said calmly. No sudden moves, no threat, stand down. Dixon pushed through the team, looked at Elena, then at Keller, then back at Elena. Everyone okay? Everyone is fine, Elena said. Hostages are safe. Suspect is cooperative, no shots fired. This is over. They took Keller into custody. Gentle, professional, Dixon had clearly passed the word. No rough treatment, no theatrics for the cameras. Before they led him away, Keller looked at Elena. Thank you. She nodded. I will check on you, make sure you get what you need. He was gone, down the stairs, into the system that would process him and hopefully heal him instead of just warehousing him. Elena stood in the empty hallway, felt the adrenaline start to fade. The shakes set in, Normal response. Body processing stress after the fact. Dixon approached. That was either the bravest or stupidest thing I have seen in 20 years of this job. Probably both, Elena said. You saved 4 lives today, maybe 5 if we count Keller. I just talked to him. Anyone could have done it. Dixon shook his head. No, anyone could have talked, you understood, there is a difference. He handed her a card. We could use someone like you. CIRG is always looking for consultants, people with your background, your skill set. Think about it. Elena took the card, looked at it. FBI Critical Incident Response Group, Crisis Negotiation Unit. I will think about it, she said. She left the building. Outside the sun was setting, painting the sky in colors that had no business being that beautiful after the day she just had. Media was everywhere, cameras, reporters, questions shouted at her that she ignored. She found her car. Duke was in the back seat, waiting. He perked up when he saw her, tail wagging, simple joy, uncomplicated. She sat behind the wheel, did not start the engine, just breathed. Her phone rang. Unknown number again. She almost did not answer, then did. This is Graves. Elena, it is Hale. She sat up. Colonel, I did not expect to hear from you. I heard what happened today, D.C., the hostage situation. You went in alone. Word travels fast. It does when one of my former students is making headlines. You did good work. Thank you, sir. Stop calling me sir. I'm retired, just Marcus now. Okay, Marcus. Listen, the reason I am calling, I run a program now, private, funded by a few organizations that care about veteran mental health. We work with former operators, teach them to transition, find purpose after combat. I could use an instructor, someone who understands the work but also understands the cost. You want me to teach? I want you to save people, same as you did today, same as you tried to do in Afghanistan. You are good at it, better than you think. Elena looked at Duke, at the card from Dixon, at the choices spreading out in front of her like roads that led to different versions of who she could become. Can I think about it? She asked. Of course, but Elena, do not think too long. There are a lot of Thomas Kellers out there, and not enough people who know how to reach them. They talked a while longer, caught up. He told her about his program, about the men he was helping, about the ones he lost because he got to them too late. When they hung up, Elena sat in the silence, watched the sun finish setting, thought about her father, about David Park, about Thomas Keller and all the broken people who came home from war and could not find their way back to peace. She thought about the shot she did not take, the baby, the choice that cost her everything and gave her something she could not name but knew was important. Then she started the engine, drove home, Duke beside her, breathing steady, alive. 6 months later, Elena stood in front of a new classroom, different building, different students, same mission. The men sitting in front of her were all veterans, all combat, all carrying weight that had no name but felt the same regardless of which war had gifted it to them. Thomas Keller sat in the back row, 2 years since the hostage crisis, 18 months served, 6 months in this program, learning to be human again. He caught her eye, nodded once, small gesture, but it meant everything. My name is Elena, she said. I am a combat veteran, former sniper. I killed 12 people in the line of duty, and I refused to kill one because he was holding a baby. Both of those things are true. Both of those things matter. And over the next 8 weeks, we are going to talk about how to live with both. The men looked at her, some skeptical, some desperate, all of them searching for something they had lost somewhere between deployment and home. We are going to talk about the shots you took and the shots you did not take, she continued. About orders you followed and orders you should have questioned. About the difference between being a good soldier and being a good human, and whether it is possible to be both. One of the men raised his hand. Older, 50s, Vietnam maybe. What if we cannot be both? Then you choose which one you can live with, Elena said, and you build from there. She pulled up a photo, her father, young before. This was my father. He chose soldier. It killed him, not the enemy. His choices, so I chose different. I chose human. It cost me my career, but I am alive, and I sleep at night, and that has to count for something. Another man spoke up. What if we already made the choice? What if we already chose wrong? Then you make a different choice tomorrow, and the day after, and the day after that, until the good choices start to outnumber the bad ones. That is how you heal, not by forgetting, by building something new on top of what you cannot change. The class went quiet, processing, considering, deciding whether to trust this woman who claimed to understand things they had spent years hiding. At the end of the session, one of them approached, young, late 20s, eyes that looked older. I was in Kandahar, he said, 2019. We hit a compound, bad intel, kids inside. I was point man, first one through the door. I see their faces every night. Elena nodded, I know. How do you stop seeing them? You do not, but you learn to see other faces too, the people you saved, the choices you got right. You build a gallery in your mind of both, and eventually the good faces outnumber the bad. It takes time, but it happens. How long? However long it takes, there is no schedule for healing. The young man nodded, started to leave, stopped, turned back. I heard about you. Afghanistan, the shot you did not take, the guy with the baby. Elena met his eyes, Rashid. Yeah, did they ever find him? Last intel put him in Pakistan, tribal areas. Dead or alive, nobody knows for certain. The woman and child, no confirmation either way. So you never knew if you saved them? No, but I know I did not kill them. Sometimes that is the only certainty you get, and you learn to live with it. The young man considered this, then nodded, walked away. Elena watched him go, wondered if he would make it, hoped he would, knew that hope was all she could offer, and sometimes hope was enough. That night she went home to her apartment. Duke was there, old now, slow, but still present, still steady. The vet had given him 6 months, maybe a year. The cancer was spreading. She could see it in the way he moved, the way he tired easier, the way he looked at her sometimes like he was saying goodbye in increments. She sat beside him on the floor, let him rest his graying head on her lap. You have been with me through all of it, she said quietly. The training, the war, the coming home. You stayed when I could not let anyone else close. Duke's tail moved, slow, deliberate, still there. Thank you, she whispered. She opened the wooden box, her father's last bullet, held it in her palm. Some bullets were meant to be fired, some were meant to be kept. Her father had fired all of his, and it destroyed him. Elena had kept one, and it saved her. She put the bullet back, closed the box. Tomorrow she would teach more broken people how to heal, would show them that refusing to fire was not weakness, that hesitation was not failure, that choosing humanity over mission was the hardest and most important choice a soldier could make. She did not know if her father would be proud, but she knew David Park would be, and Thomas Keller would be, and maybe that was enough. She lay down, Duke beside her, closed her eyes. For the first time in years, the faces that came were not screaming, not dying, just there, present, acknowledged, part of the story but not the whole story. She slept. And in the morning she woke up and chose again. To be human, to be whole, to be someone who carried the weight but was not crushed by it. It was not easy, it never would be, but it was survivable. And survival was its own kind of victory. The sun rose over Virginia, light spilling through windows onto floors that held no dust, no war, just life, messy and complicated and beautiful in ways that had nothing to do with violence. Elena Graves stood at the window, coffee in hand, dog at her feet, future uncertain but finally her own. Duke would not be here forever. The vet said months, maybe weeks, but for now he was here, breathing steady, present, a reminder that everything good was temporary and that made it more precious, not less. She had been a weapon, then a soldier, then a teacher. Now she was something else, something that did not have a name but felt like peace approaching from a distance. She did not know if peace would ever arrive, but she knew which direction it was coming from. And she knew how to wait. Snipers were good at waiting. The difference was what you waited for. She had spent years waiting for permission to kill. Now she waited for chances to save. It was a better way to live. Not easier, but better. And better was enough. Outside the birds sang. Traffic hummed. The world turned without needing her to fix it or fight it or make it into something it was not. She finished her coffee, got dressed, prepared for the day. More students, more stories, more broken people who needed someone to show them that broken was not the same as finished. She could do that, would do that, for as long as it took. Because some shots echoed forever, the ones you took, the ones you did not. And learning to live with both was the only mission that truly mattered. Elena Graves picked up her keys, called Duke, walked out into morning that felt less like combat and more like coming home. And somewhere in the space between what she had been and what she was becoming, she found something her father never did. Not forgiveness, not yet, maybe never. But the beginning of it, the first light before dawn, the sense that darkness did not last forever if you were willing to wait it out. She got in her car, drove toward the program, toward the men who needed her, toward the work that mattered more than any bullet ever could. Behind her, the apartment stood empty, except for a wooden box on a shelf. Inside it, a single bullet, unfired. Her father's legacy, her choice, her line in the sand. Some things were worth keeping, worth carrying, worth remembering. Not as punishment, but as proof. That even in war, even in darkness, even when everything screamed for violence, there was always a choice. And choosing mercy over mission. Humanity over orders. Life over the easy path of death. That was the hardest shot of all. But it was the one that mattered. The one that let you sleep. The one that let you live. Elena Graves drove into morning, sunlight on her face, future uncertain, heart finally beginning to heal. And that was enough. That was everything. That was the only victory that counted. She had survived the war, the killing, the choices, and herself. And now she would help others do the same. One bullet at a time. One choice at a time. One life at a time. Until the saving outnumbered the killing. And the faces that came in dreams were smiling instead of screaming. That was the mission now, the only one that mattered. And Elena Graves, weapon turned human, killer turned teacher, soldier turned healer, was finally ready to complete it. The road stretched ahead, long, uncertain, full of people who needed what she had learned. She drove toward them, steady, present, alive. and in the rearview mirror the past grew smaller. Not gone, never gone, but finally distant enough to see the road ahead. And that road led home. To peace, to purpose, to the understanding that the strongest thing a soldier could do was choose when not to fight. Elena Graves had made that choice, and it had saved her life. Now she would teach others to do the same. And maybe together, they would build something better than war. Something that looked like healing, like hope, like home. The engine hummed, the wheels turned, the sun climbed higher. And Elena Graves drove forward into light. I spent 3 weeks researching this story, and the hardest part wasn't writing the combat scenes. It was understanding how veterans live with impossible choices long after the war ends. Elena's refusal to shoot wasn't weakness. It was the kind of strength most of us will never need to find. Her father followed every order and it destroyed him. She questioned one and saved her soul. For those asking, yes, this is inspired by real accounts from snipers who have faced similar dilemmas. The details are dramatized, but the moral weight, that's all too real. Question for the veterans here. Have you ever had to make a choice where both options felt wrong? How do you carry that? And for everyone else, would you have taken the shot? Drop your thoughts below. This community's perspective means everything. If this story moved you, there are more like it coming. Hit subscribe so you don't miss them.